So I think it's about time for another updates and downdates, and there's a lot that's been happening this year. I haven't really made any of these style videos in a long time, I don't think anyway. So a couple of things before I start talking for a little bit. Thank you so much for your support with Z1. Like, I had no idea it was going to be like that. I thought we'd sell maybe a couple of thousand and then it would die off. I can't thank you enough for the response. In Mexico, fuck me, you guys are amazing. They were having real troubles getting shipments to Mexico recently. I know there's been devastation there, but before that, we've been having some trouble with that. But thank you so much to everyone involved, and it's been amazing, and it really has kind of set a fire inside of everyone involved with it to make more. So thank you so much. Secondly, this guitar is going to Cody from the street team. So I've been doodling on it. There may be more doodles before I'm done. And there's lyrics on the back as well. It is a Jackson guitar, and it's a Randy Rhoads thing. And it's a happy guitar. I use it a tiny bit on Z1 and a bit on Z2 as well, just for tracking some leads. And other than that, it is brand new. Jackson sent me a few of these end of last year. Keeping the white one, I like white guitars. And you can have this brown one. So yeah, thank you, Cody. Can't remember why you won it, but you did. We're doing a kind of quarterly giveaway at Hurt now, so any gear that was used on projects I think you might be interested will be winging its way to you guys as competition winners. So, what's been happening beyond everything else? Let's talk about the studio first. So we are about 6 weeks away from moving into the new studio. So 2 years ago, we found a plot and had plans drawn up for this new studio, had it exactly how I wanted it. And I say we because it's more than just me in the studio, but well, it will be anyway, which is exciting. So we found land. I found land that I liked. It happened to have medieval, I was going to say tendencies, which sounds a bit weird. Has medieval buildings already on the site, which meant that we had church covenant clause on the planning, which meant it took ages to get the planning through. But now, I mean, the studio is literally encased in an old church. And it's something I want to do in the future, I think, just build studios in the middle of abandoned Christian buildings, and then invite ghosts down to really bless it with their presence, and have a good, and maybe some death metal in there, just to really fuck over the Christians. Anyway, that's the end of the year. We're looking at going into the new studio, which is really exciting. It's big, like I wanted a big space, and I kind of got used to having a big space at Hurt earlier this year, so I always knew I wanted a kind of large area to work in. I'm a big guy, so I want a fucking big area to work in. So yeah, so that's the studio. Beyond that, there are a few singles coming out soon. There's 2 tributes, and then there's like a cover of a Mastodon song I'm doing with John. John wanted to do this song. I never really heard Mastodon before, not for a long time anyway. And their new album was sick, so he said, let's do a song. So we did. And then there's 2 covers that are tributes. 2 people died this year. They both meant a lot to me. I knew both of them, quite vaguely both of them, and for very different reasons. But they both had a part, touched my life. Well, Chris Cornell touched my life musically. He was just incredible. And then there's someone else who I'm tributing as well. And I wanted to pick songs that I knew, or which wasn't hard with Chris because I knew every single one of his fucking songs. But with the other guy, I didn't know so many, so I had to really pick one I thought I could bring to life again. And I wanted to do proper covers, not just a stripped down acoustic thing. I wanted to do them properly and spend time figuring out what's good about them. And also, what I'm just hard to explain, I tried to explain to someone earlier today, but I wanted to redo them in a way that showed how that artist affected me, like the musical influence that person had on me. Again, that's more true of Chris, but but still, it was a really fun thing to do for both of them, and they'll both be coming out soon. There's videos of both. What else have we got going on? So there's Day and Aid, or Aid and Day, and they are both coming out. Is Aid or Day out? One of them is out. I can't never remember which one. Whichever one is out. The other one was like a B-side. It was never really meant to be released, and but it is going to be released, and you can hear that as well. Both free, I think. Are they free? I have no idea. They should be free, or just download them, rip them, steal them. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, that was a really cool series of events to do those two songs as well, because I went to Maryland and met those guys for the first time and saw what they're working on now, and was like, I have to write songs about this immediately. So I wrote songs about it immediately, and then took an awfully long time to get clearance for them, because I can't remember which one it is, but Day, I get them confused all the time, but Day or Aid, one of them is really heavy law-wise. It kind of rips apart what that you currently think of in terms of law with Elder Scrolls, because of what they're working on now. Anyway, not going to give too much of that out, but that's that. Then we can talk about Heretic, actually. So it's not really Heretic though, but I wrote an EP, a 5-track EP for Heretic. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's been traveling around a load of people this end who seem to really like it, and you won't have heard it unless you're in the street team heard it. I can't remember if they've heard it or not yet. It's not being released out there. It's kind of like a demos for Heretic, I guess, but they're good songs, I think. Anyway, that got given to a couple of my mates who were stateside. Same trip, actually, the Maryland trip. And they happened to work in a business that I'm not used to, really. And they managed to get me on the bill to do a soundtrack for a film. And I had no idea what the film was at the time. I just realised, well, it must be Sympathy, kind of quite a dark film. I thought it was maybe like an art house film. No. And I don't know what's going to happen, but right now I've just finished an hour and a quarter of music, of which tiny parts can be used for a film. A film that was originally released in the 80s. Well, I was like 10 when I saw it, so it may have been 80s. Early 80s then. God, I'm old. And it was like a fantasy meets children's film, kind of. I loved it as a kid. And so they're remaking it now with the guy who did, this is just so revealing, the Pan's Labyrinth and The Orphanage, and the amazing films that are kind of becoming timeless classics in a way, in that kind of very dark area of genre. And so I haven't talked to that guy, but I've been working with the head of music for it, and what we were kind of drafted, and 8 or 9 people were drafted to recreate the original theme tune, and mine was picked. But the problem is that everyone was trying to remake that original theme tune basically as it was, but I read the fucking like the treatment at the time, and it literally said to bring it into the like nether zone, the dark zone, because this children's film that was a children's film in the 80s, they're remaking it now for adults. The people who were children in the 80s who are now adults, who would appreciate like the darker spin on it and understanding the true relevance of some of the iconography in that film. And so I'm literally remembering the emails. And so I remade it was like a really cheesy, I can't remember the name of the guy who did it. I do know, I have to think. The guy who did the original soundtrack, like the main theme. But I had to remake it, and I remade it dark as fuck. Like, it's on a level, a song of mine called Sorrow. I don't know if you remember Sorrow. Or Palette, or what's the one I went to the Avatar for? The one for A Machine for Pigs, the game, can't remember what it's called. Red Meat is what it's called. It's kind of in that vein, really dark, and they chose it. So I don't know if it's going to be used in the film or on trailer or whatever, but that was that part. And then I wrote a lot of music, orchestral stuff that's being re-recorded by orchestras at Air Studios on the 14th of December this year. So this is quite exciting because I've never really done something that would be, like this will be a major film. That's really exciting for me. I don't know what year it's going to come out in, because every bit of footage they send me is just green screen with actors on it, basically. So they've got a long way to go, I think. But It's only just finished filming as well, so maybe a year or so. But anyway, that's that, and it's something I'm really excited for. There's a couple of games as well that I've done music for, which I did like in 2015, I think, that are coming out early next year, which I'm really excited for. One is a walking simulator, not made by the Chinese Room. They won't have me. Not that I've ever offered myself, but they just won't have me. But again, another company that I love and have grown to love even more working with them. Anyway, so let's move back to Zed. So Zed1, thank you so much. Obviously it's out now. Thank you so much for your support with it. It was really humbling, like just seeing it all come through, and whether you bought it, whether you ripped it, shared it, stole it, I don't give a fuck. Thank you so much just for listening to it. That means a lot to me, because that was specifically tricky, that one, because it was a not tricky, I mean it was hard to know how that was going to do, because it was a remake or a reimagining at the end of the day, and that was always hard. So Z2 is now finished. We had the event last weekend, just literally 2 days ago. We had the event for it a couple of days ago, and they got to hear, the Heretic Record Street team got to hear it from front to back, and I think they liked it. It's much more personal than or personal to Langham, or personal to the story at least. And again, it's full of quandary, and it really speaks to the mystery in the story. There's like a missing subject in the story, and it really is ploughing through loss and confusion and all these things that are happening in the story. It was made around that sort of centricity. Then with Z3, so Z2 is being mastered now. It's mixed, mastered, and artwork's already done. So it'll be out shortly. I was going to try and get it out by Halloween. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But and Z3 is finished. We just need to mix and master it, and the artwork's already done anyway. All the artwork is done. So Z3 and Z2 are done, and we'll be with you hopefully this side of this year. Again, I don't really care when they come out, as long as they're finished by the end of the year. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I'm moving on to Z4 now. I'm having a couple of weeks off, because it's been literally, I've not had a break, no weekends, nothing, since the end of last year. So I don't know, I couldn't have done it if I wanted to get all 4 albums in 1 year. It's a lot of shit to do. Like normally bands have 3 or 4 members writing songs, helping with production, editing, mixing. I have none of that. I have John in the States, obviously he's a ridiculous drummer, and he's just amazing. But beyond that, it's just me, and it's a lot of work, and I will never do it again. But the songs haven't suffered. Like I thought, well, maybe the song's gonna be shit, but luckily I had like a well of songs before I came into it in my head. So that was lucky, because otherwise we might be playing with shit at the moment, and no one likes to get shit on their fingers. So unless you're into that, which I'm not. And then we're moving on to Z4 now. And that's colloquially, we are moving on to Z4, because it's slightly different to the rest. Very different take on the story, different vibe musically. I mean, if you think of Eyes on the King, which is the only song, I don't know if you've even heard that song. I don't think I've ever released that song. Did I? I can't remember. But that was like a weird little song, like a teaser at the time. The song changed a little bit as well. But that gives you a vibe on what the album's like. And it's a bit like magisterial, is that a word, magisterial? Like it's quite somber, quite, I can't think of words to describe it. Somber, I guess, is the way to say it. But again, it's very different to the other records so far, and it's a nice way to finish them off. And 4 is where, that's not true. 4 is where it stops with the actual record. Someone said, will I go up to 10? Then I was like, will I go up to 10? And then I thought, fuck no. 4 is where it ends for now. And then Z5, which has already been done, is the acoustic album. It has a couple of other songs, like songs that didn't quite make the records, which are called just demos. I think there's 4 or 5 demos on it, which are songs which were really good songs. They just never really fit in anywhere. And one of them's called Fun Room, which is really hard to listen to. But it's a cool song. Going back to the events quickly. So we've had Z1. which was like a tester event. I was testing out these people's abilities, which suck, by the way. Their abilities suck. Then Z2, which is a punishment for failing Z1. So we had an event, but it wasn't like the first. Z3 and Z4 are fucking grim. They've already been pre-planned because it doesn't really matter when the albums are done. Obviously, we have to play them at some point at those events. But I already knew in my head what I wanted the events to be, and their place is in the storyline. That you won't have heard of them yet, but you will have heard of them soon in the story. And they're fucking horrible. Like, I'm very happy I'm in the control room. Like at Z1, we had like a CCTV room rigged up so we could watch everyone going around the halls and the, like, not sewers, what they call them, like the tunnels. We had like a separate CCTV room with the actors, and some label people were there, and we were getting drunk in a very different, very cozy room, watching people scream and fail miserably. And the same isn't, well, anyway, I won't go into them, but they're very cool. A guy said to me the other day, what would I do if I had £1 billion? And I said, I'd probably buy a mansion and fuck with people. Like, it would just be a horror mansion. Like the dude out of A House on Haunted Hill. What's the guy's name? The old guy who created the house. Someone's going to look that up. I know they are. It might be Jacob. Could be Abel. Might be Joe Atrocious. Could be Joe. I think that's the kind of thing that Joe would know. Trying really hard to get Joe to one of the events. There's a couple of Americans who want to come to Z4 because there's a monetary reward at the end of Z4. It's the last person remaining at the end of Z4 wins, basically, and they win rewards of different types. And so that more and more people are very interested because it's quite a good fucking prize. And so people think you're flying over for it. And I've got 3 guys from Mexico, 4 guys from the States. I really want to get Joe on that bill as well. And there's 2 guys from France, 1 guy from Scotland, bar the street team. And so there's a few people wanting to come to that, which will be cool. It's a weekend event as well, and it's going to be fucking grim. So is that it? I feel like, oh, the last thing was I put a poll on Twitter asking people what they thought the first album should be in the new studio, and people voted for 2 Down, which is amazing because Callum and I, we haven't seen each other since 4 years before we did the 2 Lost Boys. We had to do the 2 Lost Boys through solicitors. We were never in the same room as each other. Obviously, after the big event, the basketball thing, we could never really be in the same room together. And so I haven't seen him since 2000. Either you'll see the way it's edited on the documentary. We're never in the same room at the same time. It's always me and then him. Like we kind of edited it so it looked like we were in the same room a lot. And and even on the live on the ends, you'll see that we're never in the same shot as each other either. Like it never happened because of, you know, it was dramatic what happened, and now feels like the right time, or soon feels like the right time to get back into that and to push forward with 2 Down. So that's exciting, and I look forward to working with him again. It'd be nice to see him again. Like, I know he's got older and stuff, and I've got older. I think we just got a bit mature, or a bit just more boring, so we can tolerate each other more now. But so the first album in the new studio will be the next 2 Down record. I really want to make a pop record. Like, I've been lying to you for years, or saying there's this cover album. It's bullshit. There was never a cover album. Was it covered by Benn or something? I can't remember what the fuck it's called. It's all lies. I could cover fucking Anaconda, for fuck's sake. But like, I really want to make a pop record. Like, obviously dark as fuck pop. But I really want to, like, I've been working on this project. It's kind of a secret because it's with a couple of bands in the States who, they're big bands now. And it's kind of like a mega group and me. But I'm the one writing all the songs and singing a lot of them. It's called Zero Royal, and that's really, I feel that's quite poppy. Like the guitars and stuff, when we sent them from me, I didn't play the guitars, but they got turned like right down in the mix. And there's a producer involved now who's worked with Drake and a few people that I've had to look up on Google because I don't know who the fuck they are. But it seemed like something that I'd like to do, and I'd love to do a pop album, like really try and make music like that. not for commercial, not because it's going to sell loads, because it won't. Look at me, for fuck's sake. You've got to have style when you're a pop guy. But I just wanted to see if I could do that, because it's never been something I've even been remotely interested in, let alone wanted to make a whole record like that. Maybe that'll be the Two Down album, will be a Two Down pop record. Fuck. But not like cheesy pop, like a really well thought out, structured, musically endeavour, and we'll see. Maybe that'll work out, maybe it won't. Anyway, I'll stop rambling now. Thank you so much again for your support, and I love you. Everyone in the street team, you guys are fucking amazing. The street team's really become like a family. Like, it's become something, like, it's how some common thread has pulled us all together. It's been amazing recently, and I love those guys so dearly, and it was so nice to see, like, their support means an awful lot. And also, there's guys in the street team who are disgustingly talented, like they're in bands that are sick. And when they release EPs and stuff, I will share them with you, obviously, but amazingly talented people and the nicest people on earth. And I like throwing prizes at them. So I've got like literally 500 guitars. So if you ever want to make up your own competition and win it, let me know. I'll just send you a guitar. I need to get rid of some fucking guitars before we move, because we're hanging all the new guitars up, hanging all the guitars up in the new studio, and there's not enough wall space. Like, literally, I've got like 25 guitars I haven't even opened, which sounds heinous, but like, it sounds like I've spent just an awful lot of money. Something happens. I was talking about this yesterday as well. You spend your whole childhood as a guitarist saving up, washing pans at a bartending job, prostitution, like selling crack, anything I could do to earn some money, and you buy like your first guitar and you're so proud of it, and then you see the people who are on stage are playing like £3,000 guitars, and you're like, fuck, like, that's never gonna happen. Then at some point, that was like 4 years ago, it just changed, and people just start sending you guitars, and then they don't stop sending you guitars. When there's a new model coming out, you don't even get emailed about it, you just get sent the guitar. So this Jackson thing, I was not expecting this. Well, I've drawn all over the fucker. Like, there's so many guitars. Schecter send me, like, Ibanez, or Ibanez as I like to call them. They send me more than anyone, and I'm one of them. I'm on their roster now. But like, there's an awful lot of guitars that just never get played, because I have the guitars I love, and I have some vintage collectible ones. I have some historical guitars now, which they're the best. They're like, I have to look after them because they're pieces of guitar history, and I became like really enthusiastic about collecting guitars like a couple of years ago, and started to basically earn enough money to start thinking about buying them as like investments. And so Reverb.com and Sotheby's, Christie's, I'm on that shit all the time, looking for, literally all the time, looking for interesting little guitars. And just ordered there's a bidding war going on right now. It's a private bidding war for the only Stradivarius guitar ever made. There was only ever one. Stradivarius was the violin creator who created violins that are now, I saw one the other day, was £7 million being fixed in London. And it was being fixed with super glue, which apparently is very normal, but it just seemed like you're putting super glue on something that's £7 million. Please be careful. But this Stradivarius only created one ever guitar, and that's currently up for auction, but it's private bids only, so I don't know if you can find it online or not, but that's something that I really want, and it's not millions, because it's not very good, I don't think anyway. It's like an arch top, like a classical arch top, and I'm very interested in making that mine for Quiet One. Take this amazing, and then using it for Quiet One, what the fuck? But you know, I'm interested in guitars apparently, and there you go. I'm gonna stop talking now before I get myself into more trouble, and I will speak to you soon. So thank you so much again for everything, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the thing, and I will try and get back to them and answer them at some point. I know a lot of people are talking about the deluxe editions of Z1 and all the Zs. They're coming, they're very different. So the deluxe are a different master, and they have additional like bonus tracks on them as well. But I never wanted to do it so you had to buy the deluxe to get the bonus tracks, so there'll always be bonus tracks like on YouTube or somewhere. I didn't want it to make it so you had to buy 2 records or anything like that. That was fucking stupid. So if it's there if you want it. And in fact, I don't even think we're selling Z1s deluxe. They're going to locations where you can go and pick one up. I sent them to the States about 4 weeks ago to be kind of put in different geotagged locations that you can go and literally just pick one up off the floor. So I'll give you more information about that soon. First dibs goes to the street team. Obviously, there aren't that many either. There's only like a couple of, is it 500 or 1,000, something like that? Nothing. So go there and pick them up, and I'll give you more information about it soon. Thank you again, and I will speak to you soon. Take care, guys. Au revoir.